Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 found footage horror film, Mr. Creep, a film that is written and directed by Isaac Rodriguez, and it stars Thomas Burke, Amber Lee Solis, Judy McMillan, Sheila Payne, and Marvin Ritchie. Right, okay, this is a found footage film that focuses on three students who are want to make a documentary for their studies, and they're showing interest in an urban legend where they live, where there is like a serial killer, potentially a serial killer from years previously, that had rumored to kill over 200 people. This is kind of their field been buried by the town, as it never made national headlines or anything like this. But one of the group, who is like a little bit obsessed with serial killers, and she kind of studies them and writes to them, all this kind of stuff. She thinks she knows somewhere locally where there will likely be potentially some evidence that they can uncover that will help them prove A, that he existed, but also B, it will give them like a focus for their documentary. So they head off, start uncovering this, and then what they discover is something they really wish they hadn't had messed with. Right, what are my thoughts on Mr. Creep? Well, as I say, this is a brand new found footage film. It is being released at the beginning of December, and obviously I've been sent a screener for this one. Now, obviously, guys, I say this every time I review a found footage film. I like found footage films. I'm a big fan of the genre. So I'm always excited to check out a brand new found footage film. And sometimes you go into a found footage film with low expectations because the majority of them, at best, are just kind of bang average. I have to say, though, guys, I was really quite pleasantly surprised by this one. I think there's a lot of good stuff in this, a lot of good ideas. I don't think everything worked, and I think the film is let down somewhat by its narrative, and it gets a little bit messy. But ultimately, I do think there is some clever ideas going on here, and I do think there are some really, really effective scares for fans of the genre. The film as well has a very distinct feel of the Poughkeepsie tapes. If you've seen that film, you'll know what I mean. I actually think the Poughkeepsie tapes is one of the most disturbing and upsetting like documentary style found footage films. I just thought that was really impactful stuff. And this was going for a vibe like that, certainly with the serial killer theme, and with these students like uncovering these tapes. There was a bit of a VHS vibe as well, because there are a few scenes in this film where they discover these tapes and they start playing them and watching them, and you start seeing some creepy stuff on screen from images that they're watching. So it had a little bit of that vibe going on as well, like the VHS films. And ultimately, I found it all a bit creepy, this film. The film as well is quite clever in a sense of, it knows that, creepy dolls are effective. We know this from many, many films, many horror films, the Annabelle doll, you name it. There's many, many examples out there of creepy dolls in horror films that can be quite effective. And again, this film makes use of not only a creepy doll that really does look very disturbing, but also like clowns. The serial killer used to kind of enjoying dressing up like a clown sort of thing, and he's almost got there's videos of him being interviewed by the police and stuff, and he's got these permanent clown features that just look horrific. So the film is really, and there's a really effective sequence where they kind of go and visit some author that's got extra information that just escalates quickly. So there's lots of really freaky imagery going on in this film. There's lots of unexplained stuff going on in this film, and I'm not one of these that always expects or wants things to be explained in horror films or any film, generally speaking. But I do think it does get to a point in this film when you kind of there are things you question, hang on a minute, you've got all this evidence at this abandoned police station, so, this has never come out. And if they were trying to hide it, or so that it wouldn't ever be revealed, why would you hide it in an abandoned police station? You'd kind of take it with you, or bury it, or do something with it. You wouldn't just leave it out in the open. So there are some things that go on in this film you do kind of question, but it doesn't change the fact that it is really quite effective. It taps into serial killers, clowns, creepy dolls, jump scares are plenty. The actors who are playing the parts, for the most part, there's a couple of times where you kind of think, I'm not sure I would believe that. But for the most part, certainly a couple of the actors, they're absolutely terrified. I suspect it was probably real terror in them scenes that they were filming, because they maybe didn't explain what they were going to do. Sometimes you can kind of tell when someone's really, really afraid, and maybe there's certainly a handful of scenes where people are charging around with the cameras, screeching and breathing heavy, where you're just kind of thinking, yeah, that sounded and looked pretty terrifying to me. So it's a good film. It's got a cracking opening to the film. It's got some inventive ideas. There's some good jump scares. There's some really creepy imagery going on. The narrative, I think, really lets this one down, unfortunately, because it doesn't necessarily feel like there's a cohesive story running through it. I think they could have maybe given us a stronger narrative and story, and I think that would have really elevated this film. I really, really do. But for like a low budget found footage film, I think this is one of the most effective I've seen for a while. I really quite enjoyed it. It's one I would certainly watch again, and if you're a fan of the genre, I think there's plenty here for you guys to enjoy as well. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I will be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.